Live streaming is on.
Hello, everybody. It's Monday, I think. I losing count of days already, and we are here with my old friend, amazing human being, generous as generous as he's amazing an artist and a creator. And I have to say this because if I don't, his wife will kill me. So, all joking
Also,
aside,
she
hello,
says hi.
hello, my friend. Hello, Jean. How are you?
I'm good. It is the weirdest, one of the weirdest weekends, and definitely the weirdest year of my life so far, as the world. But my life personally is pleasant and fine. But yeah, it's been really nice. Lisa says hi, and let me see. Seems like crews of professional criminals have been roaming around the Chicago area, ramming into stores, and then sending out crews to raid the stores. So it's like a Batman plot. It's like Nightfall.
Yeah, it's all really weird, see, especially
Yes.
from a distance. You see, like at least for me, it's probably a mistake. And I've been seeing, the whole thing with since the orange guy became president.
Yeah.
It's like this is a bomb about to explode. Something will set it up. We don't know what, but sooner or later there will be some bomb that will make it all explode. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
I didn't expect
every
it could be this, but something had to happen.
yeah. I keep on assuming that, okay, this is as weird as it's going to get. I just have to surf on this and we'll get through it. And then things get weirder again. So I have no idea what's going to happen in a month.
Well, let's hope it gets better. We can just only hope that.
Yeah.
So this question is
Just put this in a comics context. Oh,
what?
oh, sorry. Just to put this in a comics context, I feel like I'm a character living inside of a comic book series that keeps on getting weirder and weirder writers assigned to it, and the old one leaves, and someone stranger comes along and says, "Oh, I got to shake things up." And it's like, I don't really need you to shake things up, man. Maybe the readers do, but I don't.
Now, somebody told me a couple months ago that if this was a comic book, it could only be written by Alan Moore.
Oh, I'm going to say it feels a little more like Grant Morrison to me.
Okay.
Just like
you
kind of the gleeful craziness.
So, as you're an artist, you're a creator, you're a writer, of course, the confinement, has this affect you in any way? Or, since you're used to work at home in your studio, it's like, okay, this is just more or less normal.
For me, it's not that hard. I usually don't see my friends that often, but it's weird going for months without seeing them. And then having justifiably almost every comic book convention in the world canceled is really, really strange. And I really miss the other creators and the readers and the, just everyone there. It's just, I miss all of you out there.
Mm-hmm. And you have a couple of big ones in Chicago every year. So of course you can see most everybody in your own turf instead of just having to go out and see them.
Oh yeah, and I often do a lot of little small free library conventions and library events, public library events. So I will be doing like 6 of those for one of my local libraries just for free, just to help them along during this, because this is going to be a weird crisis. This is I think a different crisis in the United States than it is in some of Europe, where our state governments are going to run out of funding because they're semi-independent that way, and that's going to really hit public libraries. So I'm trying to support those too.
Well, we all should support public.
And it's also going to hit everything else, county and state.
Yeah, we all should support public libraries because they are the entry point for most kids to read, and we want them. And many people who can't afford buying books. That's where the library is also for, so they can keep reading and learning. So, guys, support your local library, support your state library. En español, por favor, apoyar las bibliotecas. Lo necesitan.
Well, in the United States, libraries are local governments are mostly supported by sales tax, a version of the value-added tax, and property tax, other things like that. And those revenues are just collapsing right now. So there's almost no funding for local governments, and they can't run deficits. So it's going to be messy. And it hasn't hit yet though.
The crisis is going to be huge for everything related to culture, I think. And The Spanish government is trying to help. European Union funds are also coming. It's the concept of public is of course very different then, but it's going to be bad for everybody. So we just can help in any way we can, I guess. So, what is the thing? What is the thing you miss the most with all this madness?
Oh, really? It's sitting in person with my geek friends and them telling me the news in person while we eat and drink, and they'll just tell me amazing stories like. I have friends who work at comic shops and just meeting them in person, either at the shop or for like a drink or a meal after they get off work, and just having them tell me like, "Oh, I read this comic," which Gene Ha doesn't have the time to read, or just and it's just they did amazing things. Here are these people doing these great things. Here's what just everything in the geek world. There's also I know a lot of people in tabletop gaming and of course the librarians and all that other creators just. I miss just hearing you guys just go off and just telling me the news that I've missed because my life is normally like this.
Just so you know, your signal is really weak since we started. It's like in red. You're really pixelated. So just so you know, it's fine. We are connected. It's working. I watch on YouTube, but the signal is really low. But we are connected, which is the good thing.
Okay. If I can just do a quick commercial message. Oh, quick commercial message. Gene Ha's low-quality Wi-Fi or low-quality internet brought to you by Comcast, one of America's most hated companies. I'm using an Ethernet cable. This is not my Wi-Fi. It's just pure Comcast being jerks.
Oh my God! And they are the biggest. Whatever. Let's move on. Do we remember
they have earned their hate?
Do you remember the last movie you went to watch this theater?
Oh, last movie in the theater. Oh, geez, it feels like so long ago. I can't remember which one it was. Because usually I don't go out that often, and then. Oh God, yeah. I mean, I went to C2E2, and I still hadn't seen a movie for a while because I was worried about sitting inside of a crowded theater at that point. And that was like, C2E2 was the last convention in Chicago. In Chicago, my big local convention was the last convention I got to go to, and even there, I was like. I bought some hand sanitizer just before every shop ran out of hand sanitizer. Obsessively doing that, trying to get people to elbow bump back when that was like the main thing. Almost nobody was wearing masks yet except for cosplayers. Oh, hold on a second. I'm going to dismiss a robocall from my city government. Hopefully it's not super crucial and they'll leave a message. So.
You can answer.
Like I said, this is a weird day for my city. I can play it for you in a minute. Okay.
No. But you don't even remember the last movie you watched in a theater?
No, because I mean, I was following the novel coronavirus back when we called it the novel coronavirus. Before most of the national news in the United States was focusing on it, and I was like, this could be bad. I'm a big fan of. I'm a big history, and therefore. When I found out that more people died during the 1919 epidemic than did in World War I was just stunned as a kid finding that out and just kept me a constant interest in my life. Like, man, I hope I never have to live through anything like that. Fortunately, this isn't that bad, but this is pretty darn bad. So, but when I saw the news out of China, I was like, oh, okay, this could be something like that happening again. So I was following it and I was a little worried the whole time.
And what are you watching now?
Watching now. Let me see. Let's see. I'll say the thing I watched that I most enjoyed for the season's over now.
Anything.
I don't always get time to like read as many comics as I'd like. The things I've been watching on TV while eating dinner with Lisa. The thing I enjoyed the most was the last season of Better Call Saul was the best one yet. It's the one where it went full Breaking Bad. So if you love Bad, this is the season. If you want to skip the other seasons and just want to jump in, it's a really good season to watch. The acting's impeccable. Plotting and the writing is just amazing. Okay, writing separately. Writing can be fun. Like a Joss Whedon story tends to have a really great writing and really miserable plotting. If I separate that in my head, the plots don't necessarily make sense on his TV shows after you think about it, but it was fun to watch while it happened. The dialogue's great. I'm also currently watching Ozark, which is a lot like kind of a Breaking Bad or a Better Call Saul. But if you think afterwards of like, why did all those people do those things and shoot those people that they shot? And it's kind of like, yeah, that didn't make sense. That was not the smart move. And then, yeah, in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, the smart people are always doing smart things.
Yes.
And it's easier to write dumb people because you can just use the excuse they did something stupid because that's who they are. They're stupid. But when the smart people do dumb things, it's kind of like, okay, it's not like our world. In their world, that makes sense. Ozarks is a world where smart people do dumb things, but that's how that world works.
No.
Like, for instance, FBI agents don't have oversight and managers and a bureaucracy above them, despite the fact that they work in the bureau. It's not a bureaucracy. It's just lone cowboys going off to fight crime. That's what FBI. They're not called special agents. They're just agents.
Yeah.
It's just they do whatever they want. Anything. It's a cowboy world. So yeah.
I like Ozark mostly because of the acting, which I think is, impeccable.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. When you see Breaking Bad or Saul, Better Call Saul, you are like, makes sense. Makes sense. You see Ozark and you are like, I don't want to rewatch it. I could rewatch Breaking Bad. I could rewatch Better Call Saul. But with Ozark is one of those where you are like, I don't want to rewatch this because then I will start, breaking the things, and I'm gonna say this is really stupid. I'm sorry,
yeah, and I grew up reading 70s comics. I'm used to that, but I have to be able to kind of classify it as in, yeah, don't think about it too hard. Just enjoy it while it's happening.
Yes. When you work, do you have a soundtrack? And I don't mean literally, a soundtrack like you listen to a definite music, but do you need music to be around, or radio, or a podcast, or even a movie that you are not watching but you are just listening to, as a cacophony to help you work, or you prefer absolute silence?
I prefer to have some noise, and I like to have people talking, because there's a little part of my head that's the social animal that says, oh man, I wish I was hanging out with my friends over a beer with them talking about their latest experiences at, writing comics or selling comics or whatever. And so I listen to podcasts, just have a voice talking to me. Also, documentaries are really good. I can't listen to, like talk radio in America other than public radio tends to be kind of the morning zoo style, where it's kind of like people getting outraged and then playing sound effects and gabbling really fast and arguing. And it's like, yeah, I can't listen to that because then I want to argue back at them. So I can't draw while doing that.
Okay. And is there any difference for you when you're drawing from, because I was discussing it with some other artists, one of them, Olivier Coipel, he told me, when I do layouts, I need absolute silence. But then when I go to, pencils or inks, I have music with me, because that helps me, put my brain into the situation. For example, I'm doing something epic, then I will go with Lord of the Rings or Last of the Mohicans, that kind of music. Or when I need something more intimate, I will go with some classic, like Chopin or something like that, something more romantic, so put me more in my brain into that mindscape. Is that something that you agree with? This is different for you?
Yeah. Let me put an exception to my rule about I don't like to listen to voices when I'm reading the script and breaking it down into a layout. When I'm trying to figure out the dialogue, I can't have someone else. I can't have other words in my head while I'm reading the words. So then I listen to music, and it tends to be kind of energetic, light music, kind of frankly punk folk influenced pop. Let me see. So like I'm a big fan of like Waxahachie, Beach Bunny, Hop Along, a few bands like that. But
lost the signal. Oops. Guys, have a little patience. I think Gene has fallen. His connection has crashed, so we gotta work until he comes back. Okay, you're back.
Okay.
You just crashed.
And that was another commercial message from our sponsor, Comcast.
Yeah, Comcast, we fucking hate your guts because of
They are the worst.
And I don't even work with. Yeah, you can swear here. Remember, this is my feed. This is David Macho. Swearing is a mess. So
Yeah.
if you don't want to swear, I will do it for you. Comcast, you do these things, we fucking hate you. But right now, just so you know, your signal is really good.
Okay.
So we'll stop blaming them for 5 seconds. Okay, so we were talking about you don't know when you are
podcast. Yes.
Yeah, when you are when you are doing the layouts, you prefer not to have words to distract you,
Yes.
and then you prefer pop, folk, and punk. You said, right?
Yeah. And just I tend not to listen to punk. I listen to people who start off in their youth to be punks and then moved on to different subgenres after that.
Okay.
So there's punk influence in their music.
There's a lot of those. People doesn't remember that, for example, Sting was really influenced by punk. It's like, what? Sting? Yeah. Police has yes. And before that, yes. I don't see it. It's like, go back.
Yeah. There's a period in the 70s where UK punk was strongly influenced by some American punk, the proto-punks like Iggy Pop and stuff like that, and also by ska music.
Mm-hmm.
So then you'll hear all these.
I can remember that ska, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll hear all these reggae kind of beats inside of early police music.
Yeah, absolutely. I was listening to I have those days during the confinement where it's like have Amazon Echo, and then I just can go with a full day just listening to a discography, from a band from beginning to end, and that's when you hear it in a day. Even if you are not completely conscious because you're working on other things, you're like, oh, that's ska, or that's, you get those influences because and the evolution. It's like listening to the REM. Yesterday was REM, the full career, and you're like seeing how they switch their influences. In a certain moment, that you're just like, oh, this is when Thom Yorke and Michael Stipe became friends. Because you see the influence of Radiohead.
Okay.
And then you go to Radiohead, and there's a time when you see the influence of REM, believe it or not.
Oh.
Because they became really good friends because of, it seems I read in an interview, I don't remember if it was Thom Yorke or Michael Stipe, said, they are both really keen to have depression. Like really bad. And they became friends because of that, because one of them was having a really rough, couple years. And they started talking and became really good friends. And then you start listening to the music and you're like, oh, shit. So their friendship, also affected the music. And you can see the influence of one band in the other. Even in, it's really small ways, but it's there. Yeah. So if you can, check it out.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's neat.
But anyway, okay, we have questions. Some people saying hello. Hello, Paula Mentimiglia. Hello, Felipe. Hello, Carolina. Hello, Juan C. Felipe Gonzalez asked a question. I'm going to include questions during our conversation. Is that fine, Jean?
Yes.
Felipe Gonzalez Hernandez. Top 10 is one of your best works with Alan Moore. Do you remember the experience with Joy? That's a nice one. It was difficult to work with Moore's scripts.
Okay. So the thing about Alan Moore that distinguishes him from every writer I know in working in any other fiction field is that he's the only writer I know who does first drafts, and that's it. He's just fine. The first draft is great.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Which means he can work differently than every other writer inside the industry. Where when he has time, he will just he would send me 2 pages of script. And he would have no plan what's going to happen the next section. He was just like, I can write 2 great pages of script, send them off. And the little genius in my head will tie it all together later. And then he'd send me another 3 pages of script, 2 pages of script. And it would all work. And there was no rewrites. And he when I say no rewrites, I mean, he literally would type it on a word processor, like an actual dedicated typing machine, like a typewriter type machine with a little LCD, a single line of text showing on the thing, and then would print it out. So essentially a typewriter, and then fax it, not email it, fax it to the editors. And then they would have to scan it and then send it to me. And but they were great. It always worked. And when you say this to other writers, it's just infuriating because it's a lot like my art, where it's like I plan it, I get everything perfect and right, rearrange things, look at it the next morning, realize this is screwed up, have to redraw it, you know, whatever. It takes a lot of banging at it over and over and over again to get it into shape. And Alan Moore is just kind of like, he gets out a whittling knife and it's just like whittling knife, toss another piece on the, you know, it's not that fast for him, but it's like that. Nobody else can do that. So I got these great scripts. Also, people talk about the length of Alan Moore's scripts and how thick they are. But that could be, I've had other writers who write long script pages, and they'll sometimes do this because they're confused. So it's the bang something into shape. They're trying to use their words to bang something into shape. Alan Moore, this is Andrew Cannon's theory, and I'm pretty sure it's correct. Alan Moore will sketch out his page in a little doodle, I don't know how big, and then based on that, he'll write a script based on that doodle. So he knows this page can work theoretically. I mean, he did, you know, Maxwell, the Magic Cat. He's not a great artist, but he understands how visual storytelling works. And then his script is long because it's describing the page he did, but always with a note at the first page of the script saying, if you want to make some changes to do your own storytelling, go ahead. But if you follow my directions, it's like a recipe instead of a cookbook. It'll just work. So if you follow his directions, it works. It's not confused. It's not long, and you have to decrypt it. Decrypt it. It's just him describing what the story he's imagining. So it's clean. It's a very clean, long script, and it's also very chatty. He likes to chat and say, "How are you doing? I've had a really nice afternoon. You know, the weather's lovely outside. Blah blah blah." And he'll just, you know.
But that's something I love, because this is part of the conversation I have with other artists during these days. I think that we're missing part of the genius we're missing with many writers. For me, that's that to establish a relationship with your artist. For me, is part of the genius of a writer. Meaning, this is script. Hey, draw this. Fuck off. And then there's, I'm writing this for you to have fun. I'm writing this for you to enjoy it. You know what I mean? Many times I read the scripts and I'm like, okay, you're sending this and you don't care, or you're just on your own world. And this is what, there you go. Just draw it. But when I see writers that involve the artist, as Alan or Grant or, others do, you are like, okay, this is what I would want as an artist. What I would want is to, not the writer to write only for the audience, but for me to tell me, hey, you're part of my audience. I want you to enjoy it while you draw it. So I want you to feel like a part of a team.
Yeah.
Go, please.
Okay, I'm working on an unannounced DC project right now. I'm gonna vaguely describe one of the pages now to kind of give an example of a challenge I really enjoyed. The writer gave me a double-page spread and said, I need you to use flying birds and flying feathers to represent the passage of 1,000 years of injustice. And it was really vague, but also the writer knows who I am and knew I was up to the challenge. So I did it. I've designed, I still have to draw this page, but I did my rough layout of, okay, here's how I'm going to use those elements to tell that story. And it was fun because, again, the writer knows who I am, and that kind of thing just will get my gears going and I can do it. Okay,
but in a way, that's the writer. That's the writer writing for you. He knows who you are. He knows what you can do. I'm going to write in a way that I know you're going to understand and be able to follow.
That writer would not have done that with a new artist.
Okay, absolutely. That's what I meant. When a writer thinks about the artist, that makes the collaboration. I think you can disagree with me, of course, a lot.
Oh no,
I think that makes the work much better because it's a two-way conversation.
Yeah.
What I don't like is the other way, when it's a one-way conversation where you just get what you get, and that's it.
Yeah. And this is not me ragging on him because he is a genius, but I know that Howard Chaykin is very famously believes that the script should just be the script and it should not be adapted to a specific artist or anything like that. It just, any competent professional artist should be able to get a competent professional script and do a great story from it. And any writer needs to get the true story out of their head, and any good artist should be able to take a good story like that and be able to adapt it. But I don't think that's really how creativity usually works. I like to use the example from film of Orson Welles, where there's there's a very degraded version and popular today of the French auteur film theory, that a film is the result of the genius of the director. This is not what the original French auteur theory was about, but the current pop version of it is that everything is from the genius of the director, and it all comes out in a burst, and it's just expressed at once, and the director's vision is perfect. And that's not how I've ever seen creativity work. It's essentially saying that, like, say it takes you like 2-3 months or something to write a film script. It's saying that that's where all the genius happens. But in real life, what I've seen is that, like, if you have like a 2-year process or something like that to make a movie, or a 3-year process, every moment of that process is an opportunity to do something of genius. And if you talk to people about, like, if you talk to film people about film editing, or listen to documentaries where they're talking about film editing, it's the last stage. And they're always coming up with new ideas at this last stage, which completely shred the ideas in the script. But it works better. You just use every moment you have to make your story or your art project, whatever you're doing, just work better, and figure out ways to adapt on the fly to new genius. That way you have, instead of 2 months, you have 24, you have 12, 24 months. That's, 12 times as much creativity going into your thing to make it a work of genius. And that's what happened in Orson Welles' Citizen Kane. They would just come up with ideas on the set or in the film editing to make the movie better. And it looked unified afterwards because they had themes and ideas they were trying to push and stuff like that. But it wasn't in the script. It wasn't all in the script.
My brother is a movie editor, and he always tells me, well, my brother, one of them, we're 5. He always tells me the same thing. That whoever thinks that before the editing the movie is done has no idea. The script can be there, the shooting script, you can shoot the movie, but then a really good director, a really good editor, and that's the merit that most people gives to Scorsese and his Thelma Shoemaker, I think it is. His always all-time editor. It's like the movie, when they sit down, like, we have no movie. We shot it, but we have no movie. The movie is going to be realized now. And many things are going to change, and it's like, we don't care because we don't have a movie. We have to, on the fly right now, realize what works and what doesn't. And multiples, like, lines of dialogues will disappear. In desperate cases, they'll do extras. They'll have to shoot effects scenes because, like, at the end they realize, oh, we need to call all the actors and all the production team back for this one scene because it'll make the movie work. Or they'll get rid of just things will be chopped up. Things will be reorganized into different order. Like, the plot will be reorganized to make the movie work better because they realize it afterwards. And go please.
It's just, and the same thing happens in comics.
That's what I was going to ask. In comics, I think that you give that piece of script you just mentioned. You just give the art back to the writer, and the writer is going to be like, oh, this gives me another idea. Why don't we push in that direction? Because what Gene just gave me back, I didn't think that that small thing was important, but what Gene gave me back makes me think that about using it maybe in that issue, or maybe that small thing is going to show up. Like Janik told me that it was really funny with Grant. He just did, I think it was Batman Inc. A small fish, like a small fish that he just did there just for fun. It was not important. It was just in the background. And Grant showed that fish, and that fish became a really important part of the next issue. Just because Grant saw it, like, oh, that's fun, and he just incorporated it.
Okay. If anyone's at some point they're going to announce the project I'm doing. It may be a long time. But the sequence I talked about with 1,000 years represented by birds and feathers, I'm just going to give you the solution of how I handled this.
Okay.
So there's a very complex like golden ratio spirals and mathematical spirals and stuff I use to represent time. But in the end, the thing that really tells the story of time is a bird carrying a feather to somebody else at a different time period. And suddenly this bird who was in one time period completely magically shows up at the end of this 2-page sequence of, like, this swirl of images and birds and feathers carrying a feather to somebody a thousand years in a different time.
Okay.
So look for that. Look for that bird.
Look for
And
that.
that feather.
You know what the project is. We cannot talk. I'm not gonna ask you, Gene. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
So another question: top 10 the 49ers was an evolution of your art. Did you want to, when you were doing it? Did you want to experiment or create new stuff?
Oh, okay. So the history of my styles inside of comics is that okay. So in art school, I fell in love with oil paint and charcoal.
Mhm.
So I loved this kind of three-dimensional modeling I could do with either of those mediums. And then I was suddenly thrown into the world of being a penciler in comics, where I didn't even control the final black and white image.
Mhm.
And sometimes the inkers and sometimes the inkers wouldn't do what I wanted, though I got better and better inkers over time. And then this was also the 1990s, the dark ages of American comic book coloring,
Mhm.
where it was more important that you knew how to use Photoshop than you knew anything about how to paint or how to do comic book or color theory or anything like that. Just you needed the computer skills to do Photoshop back when that was like, ooh, wow. Nobody knows how to use Photoshop or whatever programs they were using back then. So yeah, it was just awful coloring. And it was me fighting against...
That day, if you remember, with fear and nightmares, that was coral paint.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So I just saw your face like, ooh.
I've seen people do good things with coral paint, but I can't do anything with that software. Anyway, but okay. So the history of my styles in comics is that it's me trying to get the vision that's in my head onto the printed page. And eventually that led me this creeping process of taking over more and more of the art process. So start off as a penciler. And even though it meant I was making less money because I'm not a fast inker, I began taking over my own ink. So like the Starman books.
Mm-hmm.
But also, or actually, let me see. If you look at if you can track down a copy of Showcase 95,
Mm-hmm.
issue 11, it's one of the most beautiful things ever done. And you can buy it really cheap. You know, postage, you have to pay extra for postage. But other than that, it's really cheap. And it's Archie Goodwin's story. And yeah, it's... Okay, so that's me doing my cross-hatching style, which was close to good enough, or maybe actually in some ways better than what you see on current U.S. currency.
Mm-hmm.
Of just highly rendered, very careful drawings and stuff like that. A lot of photo reference. But that was killing my hands and killing my eyes. And I knew I couldn't do that. It was too slow. So then I started doing coloring guides, but I didn't want to take the time to do full color guides. So I did them in warm grays and cool grays, which is how I came up with that style.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have the Starman work, the Shade series. I did the Starman Shade, not the Shade, the Changing Man Shade.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, the 49ers was me for a while. Oh, on top 10, I started doing inks again because I had to just be really fast. I didn't have time for color guides. And I had some, in the second half of top 10, I had Alex Sinclair coloring,
Mm-hmm.
which was just brilliant coloring. So it's kind of like at that point, it's like, I feel really secure just letting him do the coloring on it.
Mm-hmm.
But then I wanted to try to, again...
Were you, so a small question, were you given Alex color guide, so you just let him roam free because you trusted him?
I trusted him.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Actually, there's a thing early on in top 10 where on the second issue, I asked to be able to work more closely with the colorist. And on one cover, on the cover number 2, if you see the original print cover,
Mm-hmm.
it's full of like these weird black areas covering up what should be pale areas, like the white wheels of the police cars.
Yeah.
And what happened is I got everything right and explained where all the lighting and reflections were coming from the scene. Like the faces are underlit because there's a cowboy hat. He's a sunny scene and no light's coming from above him, but the light's reflecting off the ground and then hitting the Dust Devil's face. So he's lit from below. So just making all that clear, how the lighting's working in the scene, and got everything perfect. And I was like so happy and emailed back to the colorist. This is great. This is a great job. I'm so happy working with you. And then somehow they took some of the process layers in Photoshop or whatever they were using to color the scene, which were dark black flat areas, and sent that off to the printers. So all these areas with this carefully modeling on it and lighting suddenly all got covered up by big black areas on the printed cover. If you look at the graphic novel, and I'm pretty sure especially the Spanish editions,
Mm-hmm.
those are right. But if you look up online what the original top 10 number 2 cover looked like, it's awful. It looks like somebody attacked it with a black paintbrush.
Oh my god.
So that's part of my inspiration. Part of the reason I was happy to get Alex Sinclair doing coloring, and also me wanting to experiment with doing an ink wash style so I could control the modeling and get more of what's in my head. And then the current process is now I have my iPad Pro, and suddenly it's the first digital tool where I actually like drawing on it, which is allowing me to do a lot of stuff I wasn't able to do before. Okay, I'm going to hide this because the secret project you're not supposed to see is on this. But, yeah, okay. Okay, I'm assuming none of you are going to leak this. I did an album cover for an American musician. This is just a little close-up of it. But it allowed me to control the shading and stuff like that in a way I wouldn't have been able to do.
Nice.
In a practical way with pencils and inks, or just scan technology, and I hate drawing on like a Cintiq. But the iPad Pro really works for me. Similar scene. This is a cover to May number 9. And again, just allowing me to do kind of fun things that wouldn't have been possible otherwise.
What are you working on? Just as Procreate or Clip Studio?
Procreate. And I haven't tried Clip Studio. I have Clip Studio on my computers, but not on my iPad yet. But I haven't tried Clip Studio for drawing like that. Yeah. It's just it feels a lot like it allows me to get very charcoal-like effects that really appeal to the art student who just really loves it. Also here, let me see. Also, it's allowing me to do things like hold on, do blurs. So like in my head, it's not like everything is in perfect focus and perfect perspective, no matter how far back you go. I do that. I figure that out on the page. But here's a scene from a main story I did with Molly Jane Kramer. And you can see here in this background, I'm able to just draw a figure in the background as just kind of a hazy, shady thing. Yeah. Which is finally what's in my head. And inside of, frankly, I mean, one of the delights of Top 10 is that there was all these detailed figures in the background. But that's because I had to, because I didn't want to just do a scribbly there and then just leave it at that, because it looked weird in that kind of comic. But now I can. Because
you are still with the, I think that's the 2017 iPad Pro. So you're still working with the first Apple Pencil. Have you thought about renewing to the full screen iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil 2, or you're like, I'm fine with this one, screw it?
My biggest limitation now with my current iPad Pro is that it doesn't have enough RAM. So it's not
USB-C like the new ones. So you cannot connect a hard drive. Yeah, that's true.
Oh no, not storage. RAM memory for processing.
RAM memory. Sorry. Yes. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So it can't handle documents above a certain dimension, like pixels or inches or centimeters, and it can't handle too many layers.
Yeah.
So currently, that device has 4 gigabytes of RAM. I have an estimate that I want at least 16 gigabytes of RAM, but the new iPad Pro I think only has 6 or 8 gigabytes.
8.
Yeah, and I don't have and so it's really hard right now to actually go into a store to try one out.
It has 4 more cores.
Yeah, but
so it's a different way of measuring. You gotta try it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When I get a chance, I want to try it. Though I mentioned also that roving gangs of professional criminals had attacked my local shopping center and various ones in Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah. This was the week I was planning on going to our local electronics store, Best Buy, to try out the iPad Pro there.
Yes.
Which by appointment only, and now it's been looted and burned.
Ouch. Okay, that's a very good reason not to do it.
But I want to go there and try it out, and if they can handle large European album size double page spreads, with multiple layers, I'd be happy to pay $3,000 for that thing and $2,000.
The new one, no, not that much. It's not 3,000. No,
I know it's not 3,000, but yeah,
the one just after yours, the 2018 one, was a really powerful machine, but the new one is really like. It's a beast. It's a beast. You're gonna try it.
If it can't, I don't know how much. Software designers and computer engineers are really good at wasting cycles. So the specs may sound great, But it may turn out that they're like, oh, and now we'll do animated this and that in the background, which will take up so much of the processing power. And it's kind of like, I just wanted a drawing machine, you jerks.
For some reason, I just want to draw. Leave me alone, you assholes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's got a musical accompaniment now. That's so great. I can't do the document. It's just so I need to make sure it actually works with the documents I want to use.
It's the main point where I think it'll help you a lot, as if it's done with Paloma has the same iPad you have, the same Pro 12 2018, and since they changed from iOS, regular iOS to iPad OS, to like the separate operating system. I don't know if you notice it in your iPad, but in Paloma's iPad I notice it a lot, because it's really obvious to see now it's dedicated to do something else. It's not to do the phone calls, to be listening to music at all times, to devote a lot of of the importance of the machine. It has to go to the processing the photos you do with your camera. So now the new iPad OS is like, we know you're not going to work to do professional photos with this. That's the iPhone. We know you're not going to be listening to music at all times. That's the iPhone. It's they're devoting the process, the power of the machine to what people uses it for. Editing photos or editing videos or editing whatever, to editing to be a machine for professionals to edit work.
I know it's just it's the stay-at-home orders and the lockdown in Illinois, where I live, happened a little before the new iPad Pro came out. And then the stores were all closed. And now they're just starting to open. And then we had the weird Batman Nightfall crime wave happen this week that says it's time to go out as the stores were opening. And so you have to make an appointment to go to the store to try out a device. So I was going to make an appointment for Wednesday to go there and try out the device finally, see if they'd allow me to install Procreate on it and create a document of the size and the number of layers I wanted. But I don't know when that's going to happen.
That's one detail that I know, because I've seen it in the Apple stores. Procreate is installed, at least in all the, I guess Best Buy is the same, but in the Apple stores, all the iPad Pros have Procreate installed already.
Okay.
Just so, because they know what people want to try, the pencil and Procreate. So that shouldn't be a problem. But I hope these changes so you can go and try the thing. The other way is what most of my friends have done in these days with the lockdown. They just, since Apple lets you just send it back, they just order it, got it home, tried it, and if it didn't work, they just sent it back.
I'd feel too guilty about that. I know it's fine.
I couldn't do it. Same reason. I couldn't. I would feel like shit if I did that. But I know people. Since an Apple is allowing it, since you cannot go to the stores, they'll just what? Just try it at home, and you send it back. So Anyway, let's go. Enrique Robles says, aside from Alan Moore in top 10, what is your other favorite collaboration with a writer?
Well, okay. Partially because he's one of the kindest people I've ever met in comics, and also a creative genius. That Archie Goodwin story I mentioned, Showcase 95, number 11. He was also the editor of Starman and The Shade, and he was just a brilliant writer himself. So just his story inside of Showcase 95 was just perfect, and it was also really important to me because at the time I was strongly I was like 24, 25 years old, and really excited about I'm going to do take all my coolest scenes from every comic book I've ever read and make every page like that. Every page is a pinup, which is not usually not very good storytelling. And Archie Goodwin looked at my first roughs I faxed to him from his script and explained, okay, you're using weird camera angles and stuff like here and making it very dramatic on the first page. And this page is exposition. We're trying to set up the suspense. And we want it to be really powerful when we hit the climax to make everything dramatic and exciting then. So if you press the gas pedal at the start, we're not going to have any gas at the end. You need to slow down at the start. And he just explained all his logic behind how he'd structured the story. And that was the most important comics education I ever got in my life.
Archie's becoming a recurring theme subject here because last week I have Chiarello, that Mark was Archie's assistant at Marvel. So he learned.
Oh, I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, he learned. He says that everything he knew about editing, he learned from Archie. He was
Wow.
on Epic. When Archie was the editor-in-chief, Mark was his assistant there.
Huh.
Oh, there's a lot of, and of course, I was talking to Jim Starlin last Monday. We were talking Dreadstar, and of course, we talked Epic and we talked Archie. So, and everybody said the same thing. Best editor they ever met. Also, incredibly amazing writer, and one of the most kind human beings, they ever met. Also in the industry. So, one of the guys I never got to meet, and I'm really sad about it.
Yeah. Oh, he's got there's the legacy of all the people who were influenced by him, though. But yeah, you can just feel it. He was just so kind and understated and stuff like that. He was just, man, I'm trying to think. There's like characters from fiction who are like him, but it's hard to explain. My mind's on million different subjects, but yeah, just he's the perfect coach you'd want for any TV show. Just like a sports team's coach of just like, I'm old and I've been around and I used to play on a team, but now I understand what you're going through and I can get you through it so you can win the championship.
Yeah.
Except he had a much softer voice than that.
Yeah, and it's sad because people doesn't realize how amazing he was as a writer, as an editor. In the Harris books and all that. Also, what Epic meant back at that time.
Oh,
and I still believe that Vertigo would have never existed without Epic being there first.
No,
that was the door that allowed Vertigo to happen later.
Yeah. Another thing is also he also represented he was also kind of his death represented the end of a time period where editors still had time to coach and work with creators and teach them the ropes. Mm-hmm. And nowadays, editors are kept so busy working on so many books and doing social media, and also, even before Zoom, doing endless meetings.
Yeah.
Back then, it was really common for me to just call up an editor on the phone and we'd talk for 30 minutes or an hour.
Yeah.
And they'd have the time to do it. And that no longer happens. They're too busy now. They can't do that.
I know I won't name the name of the editors, but a couple of group editors who are close friends. Once, I would say less than a year ago, they told me, we were just having a drink. It was like they look at each other and literally said, when did they stop being editors and become meeting people? Because the only thing we do is to just be on meetings. We don't even have time to create or to talk to the creators because, the people below them are the ones talking to the creators. They are just in meetings and planning.
Oh, I'm not going to name the company, but I heard of one company where I think it's every day, but at least it's several times a week. They have a big group editorial meeting and every editor has to report how many pages they've gotten in from of pencils or inks on every project. So if one artist is got like 8 pages done and sends them all in at once, and then for another week doesn't send in pages, the editor gets in trouble. And they actually is like, can you just send 2 pages and then wait a few days before you send the next 2 pages? It helps. It makes the meetings easier.
You'll get me out of trouble if you just, don't send everything at the same time. Yes, yeah. I think I know what company we're talking about. Anyway.
Comcast.
Yes, Comcast. We don't hate you that much, Comcast, right now, just so you know, because the signal is holding up. So we'll keep going. Juan C. asks, hello, Ivan Coelho. Juan C. asks, do you have a great presence of social networks, social media? How has the relationship with the artist and the followers in this case, then, change your opinions? Huh? You have. Did you, I don't know if I'm not sure if I've got the question. I think you will.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm going to talk generally about like social media with connecting different creators together, and social media connecting with fans. When I first started off, you met other creators at comic book conventions, and that was it. Unless you had neighbors, like you're living in New York City or something like that, and there are a lot of other creators living nearby. And nowadays, there are different forums and Facebook groups and just whatever, where creators chat with each other all the time. And if you're a young creator and you become friends with an older creator in one of these forums, you'll hopefully get invited on. And that's where a lot of the coaching happens now. It's not from the editors anymore. It's from older creators saying, oh, you're having a problem with a company jerking you around on a contract, or you're trying to figure out the process of like how to hire a colorist for yourself or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's where the coaching happens. And it's nice. I don't usually have to go there to have questions for myself, but it's nice knowing that what I have learned can be useful to somebody else who can't figure it out because their editor can't talk on the phone for an hour anymore every week. Another thing is also, sometimes there have been a lot of big dramatic events in the world and affecting comics this year. So like when Diamond stopped distributing for a month, or when Marvel announced pencils down to so many other creators.
Yeah.
This is the place. Yeah, those forums are the place where we all shared information, so we knew don't panic or panic a little bit.
Yeah. And do you think that way of coaching, from seasoned professionals like you to new generations, it needs a forum, like a certain forum, like I was thinking about the Wikipedia guys, they created their own social network. A weird thing that doesn't work, I think. But I was thinking that maybe that kind of thing, for coaching new creators could work, a forum, a social network, when creators can chime in if they have the time, to help new generations and not only in terms of I'm sorry, I was going to say the easy part.
No.
That's not what I mean. In terms of, the composition, the storytelling, but also in this is how you do it, to get to know colorists, or this is how you do it. Don't send a portfolio 40 megs and call for to an editor, you idiot. Just ask first, do it the right way. Don't get, mad if they tell you are too young, you are not going to go to the talent manager, you're going to go to the samples guy, and then if you're good enough, don't worry, you will get to to the talent manager, guidance. That's what I think that's what I'm thinking about.
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely there's some coaching like that. Though generally you'll kind of get, if you're going to be invited onto a forum like that, essentially you're going to be someone who has proven they can, like, this is the most important thing for young creators. If you're somebody who can steadily get out your pages and meet deadlines with a reasonably consistent quality of artwork, editors will love you because you're the person not giving them a nervous breakdown. So once you get past that barrier, then you're in. It's people who are still trying to break in don't get that much won't go on a forum like that because a lot of them tend to be a little crazy.
No, but I don't mean that. I don't mean that.
Okay. Essentially, the young creators who haven't broken in yet, who go on a forum like that, who talk the most, are the craziest.
Yes.
And the calm ones are the ones who don't talk as much, therefore you don't see as much of them. So you can't, it's a little dangerous to invite someone like that onto a forum like that. I in person and in other forums and stuff like that, I'll try to help out people like that. If someone like, my Facebook is almost all my Facebook posts are public, and if you want to contact me there or contact me on Twitter, which rarely happens, but I mean, if you want to do it there, and ask me a question about how comics are made, or better yet, go to my website geneha.com and ask a simple question on how things work in comics and any advice I could have. I will do my best to try to answer you when I have time.
Okay. I didn't mean a forum that is already established, with creators.
Oh yeah.
I meant if we, sorry if I wasn't clear, I thought that in this day and age, with what happens with Diamond, with what happens, with creators' rights in terms of royalties, in terms of, doing your own work, if it will be worth it to create, I'm not saying I'm going to do it. No. I have enough in my plate. It wouldn't be worth it to create a social network devoted for that, for creators, new creators, so people can know their rights, so people can know the questions to ask. I'm not talking about a union, but in a way it could be. It could be somewhere where you can go and learn how to be safe in this business.
Oh man. I don't know if you could do a general, again, it's what usually happens, I've seen happen, is that small groups of young creators will band together, and a few of them will have connections to older creators, and they'll form a network there.
Okay.
But if you create a giant worldwide or even nationwide forum or something like that, then once again, the crazies drown out all the reasonable people.
It won't work. Yeah, that was my fear. That was my fear, that it becomes too big, loses the focus, to what was intended in the beginning. That's my worry. That's always been my worry.
Yeah, there's a Chicago-wide Chicago Comics Creators Forum. And maybe it's that one. There's like 3 or 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
But if 2 of them, I've kind of gotten overwhelmed with posts of just somebody saying, "Hey, here's my latest comic. Everyone should buy it. And also, please promote it to comic shops." And just repeated posts like this of just like, "Hey, I need you to all do PR for me. You've never heard me. You may not have met me in person, but I'm on this forum and I'm going to keep on selling." It's just like, it's like living with a car salesman all day who's trying to sell you a car. And it's just kind of like, that's not what this forum's really about. And it just drowned out every other conversation.
Yeah, it's a shame that these things can't work, because I think that they are needed for new generations. But in a way, there's always going to be somebody like you or Chi or guys like that who are going to be like, wait a minute, think this is the path. Don't just go crazy and lose any chance being impolite and a jerk to editors, to the people who could pay your mortgage or something like that.
Yeah. Well, one way to put it is that essentially you need a way to apply social norms, like to pressure people not to constantly just do sales pitches on a forum that's about sharing professional woes and joys and stuff like that. If you know the people in person, then you know that you actually enjoy hanging out with them. That helps. Just ways to kind of limit it, and just not just have the jerk who doesn't listen to other people dominate the conversation. And that's American politics today too. So,
Yeah. Well, hey, why did you decide to go solo in a way, with May? Decided I want to write, I want to do the full thing. You could answer, I've done Bill Willingham, I've done, Archie Goodwin, I've done Grant Morrison, I've done Alan Moore. I've been with the best in a way, but I know that's not the reason though. Why did you decide to do it?
I don't want to name names, but I had a project lined up with a high profile writer at a company. So we had like corporate buy-in, not, like a medium-sized American comic book company, and everything. We were doing great work together. And then just as we were supposed to sign, I'd done 24 pages of art, black and white, and about 5 pages of color. And then the writer stopped answering phone calls and emails the week we were supposed to sign the contract so I could get paid for the pages I'd done.
Oh, shit.
And the company really wanted to pay me, but they needed the contract signed by both of us before they could pay me. And it was kind of like, okay, maybe this is a sign that I need to try my own thing now for a little while. So, so at that point,
I know who was that. I know.
Yeah. I'm going to say the writer actually.
My question is, did you ever get paid? Anything?
The writer personally wrote a check to me.
Okay.
A year later, after finding out what had happened. But it was just like this big miscommunication thing of just like the writer was angry at the company for another reason and then just stopped all projects with that company for a while. And different editor too. Angry about something that happened on a different project and just like, I can't deal with this company anymore, and just cut everything off, and my project was dead and I couldn't find out why.
He knew you in person, right? He could have just called you.
Oh, yeah. But also not answering phone calls at the time either. So
anyway, move on. May.
Very angry.
So they decided to go with May because of that.
Oh, yeah. I just decided, okay, I've had this idea in my back pocket for a while. This world I really would like to explore and have adventures in, and just tell my own stories and do everything the way I want to, even if it takes. The first 2 issues I colored myself to just get everything out the way I wanted exactly. The only thing I didn't really do was lettering. I got Xander Cannon for that, but that's because I wanted Xander Cannon lettering on it. There's a thing where like on my painted covers from that time period, and also some of the stuff I did on May, people assume it's 3D CGI software I'm using to make the characters because it's such realistic lighting. And no, it's just me painting in Photoshop. I can paint in Photoshop. I don't like drawing in Photoshop, but I understand light in a way so that it's not too far away from how a computer does ray tracing, where I know where the light sources are, I know where the reflections are. It's going to look like a realistic thing being lit by realistic lights. But yeah, that's what that's what I do. And I got to tell a story I really want to tell about things I want to tell, like about geeks going on adventures, being a little bit conflicts between brothers and sisters and sisters and stuff like that. Also, this is also really important to me. Also, being a hero because you're a nerd. And also at the time, there were very few geek girl characters. I want to tell a story about a girl who's a geek because I had so many friends who are female comic geeks, but I actually had trouble finding before the current things like Ironheart and stuff like that, those characters, finding female geek character heroes who weren't just sidekicks. Essentially the classic thing in American pop media at the time was you have a geek girl character and she's tech support for the male action hero. Yeah. So he'll get on his Bluetooth phone and say, okay, which hall do I go down? Go down to the 30 meters down this hall and then turn right. And she's searching the internet for him, like for
the Oracle model where for a time she only was a character to tell Batman where to go.
Yeah. And I wanted to actually let the geek be the hero because she's a geek. Mm-hmm. And that was a lot of fun. And also just kind of world building in a way that was just a huge amount of fun for me. I'm a big fan of the first episode 4 Star Wars, before it was called episode 4, where they built a world, but they did not feel obligated to explain everything. Mm-hmm. So one of the great things they did, as I mentioned, there's a Galactic Senate. Uh-huh. But also, they did not show the Senate because Senate proceedings, legislative proceedings, parliaments are boring.
Yes.
And then inside of when they did the episode 1, 2, 3 of Star Wars, they decided, let's have long sequences inside the Senate. And it's kind of like, you don't need to do that. Those
movies don't exist. The prequels don't exist. They are just a bad nightmare. We just need to forget about them.
Yeah. A really great piece of imagination is partially great because it inspires the reader or the viewer to imagine things.
Yeah.
And it will be grander and better than anything you could show on the screen, as shown by the Galactic Senate scenes in episodes 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
Just let them world build. Yep. Let them join you in creation. Let the reader be part of it.
I agree. I was talking to Jesus the other day about Alien. In the part that it makes Alien the scariest is that you almost never see the alien.
Oh yeah,
it's always it's just suggested. When you see it on Aliens, it's fun. You love it. It's a war movie, whatever. You just kill the monsters, but it loses all the mystic. It loses all from that moment. Even you see the Queen, you're like, oh, okay, they'll kill it. It's not scary.
Yeah,
because you've seen the whole thing.
Yeah. So one of the things I've seen is that, like, because older obsessive comic geeks, they want to learn everything about Star Wars. They want to know exactly what a Womp Rat looks like, which has not improved the Star Wars universe.
Nope.
Now that everyone knows what a Womp Rat looks like. In May, I mentioned all these in passing, just a city they're going to. Just they're going on a journey. They mentioned they came out of the city and going to another city. It's not important what each city looks like. It's just getting a point across the point. They're going through this land with different cities in it. And older readers will sometimes be like, why didn't you show that city? Who is this person that's mentioned in passing? Blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, no, it's the point is not to build an encyclopedia. Mm-hmm. And I've never had a younger reader under the age of, I think under 24, get hung up on this because they know it's about the story. It's not about being an older geek who knows what a Womp Rat looks like. And that's not the point. It can be fun. It can be fun to be the Harry Potter geek who knows every spell by name that's taught at Hogwarts and what they do. But if that's what you're getting out of the story, if you think that's the main part of the story, you're really missing out on what the story is really about.
Yeah, I normally, with those Star Wars ultra fans, they get mad when I don't know some details, and they're like, "No, you don't get it. I don't care. I just enjoy the movie. I don't need to know who built the screws in the Millennium Falcon. I don't care. Or he built the chessboard. I don't care. I just want to enjoy the movie. Is it fun or is it boring?" And as you said, Senate hearings are boring.
There are so many better ways to do that. There's a scene in one of the later Matrix movies where they spent 5-10 minutes having discussion about the motivations for an air conditioner.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, there's ways you could actually have that, it's gotten that point across by actually having things happen, as opposed to people standing on a balcony over an air conditioner and saying, do you think the air conditioner's happy today? I don't know. I think it's a sad air conditioner. And it's kind of like, stop. Now you're explaining things to the viewer instead of telling a story to the viewer and giving a story to the viewer.
Yeah, but
just stop explaining.
There's that kind of things, there's only like 2, 3, 4 guys who can do it as writers and make it work. For example, Garth Ennis can. Garth could have the main preacher talking about whatever, and it would work because it was, part of his genius, I think, is that he can have, and of course Steve's genius, they could be, like 10 pages per issue just sitting in a pub talking.
Oh, yeah.
And
well, yeah, you need to, but
you gotta be really, really good to make that kind of thing work.
Yeah, you have to have at various levels of the conversation, a little bit of conflict between two people who are talking to each other, even if they're friends. They're having some type of clash where the story will be changed depending on how the conversation goes. And also for the reader, it's changing their understanding of the story when they learn these facts about the universe. And it's kind of like, and it gets their imagination going, thinking, well, essentially the best thing that can happen is the reader comes out of it thinking, oh, I could write a story where this happens, or I could write a story where that happens. That's one of my big goals. And that's one of the great things about the first Star Wars movie. It's just like you felt all these possibilities, like all these adventures that could happen out there. But if you go to a kid who's never seen Star Wars and just hand them a Star Wars encyclopedia or something like that and say, look, it lists what every alien race in the galaxy looks like. This is all of them. Don't add any more.
Yeah.
That's killing their creativity. Yeah.
Exactly. It kills all the fun. Which is why I don't love The Mandalorian, but that's part of what I loved it. And of what I liked it in a way, because they try to go back to the original movie. Like they don't need to explain everything. Like like Gina Carano's character, she was elite shock trooper, I think, in the rebellion.
Yeah,
they don't delve or explain her story or blah blah blah. She was just from Alderaan. We know what Alderaan is. They don't spend 30 seconds explaining, oh, you know what? The Empire destroyed Alderaan, and that's why she hates the Empire so much. They don't say a word. They just said, Shock Trooper, Rebellion, Alderaan. And you just connect the dots. And that's what, in the Mandalorian, most of them is like, they don't explain why Boba Fett wasn't a real Mandalorian. But they just say, you take the helmet off, because he's the Greed, So it's like, cool. So they are just saying without saying it, okay, so Boba Fett wasn't a real Mandalorian. And I think like that is what they try to go back to the spirit of the original, which is we are not going to map everything in front of your face. Yeah. We are going to leave the clues there so you find the answers.
Yeah. The fundamental story just has to work and make you interested and stuff like that. And then afterwards, it can include details that make the world deeper or more consistent or things like that. But I'm just going to give the example of Joss Whedon as somebody who he can write a story like Firefly where every episode while you're watching it is fun and carries along. And the rest falls apart later. A lot of it does not make sense.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it would have been nice if it did. But at least he built the essential structure. And if he put a little more thought into it, the rest could have worked too. But at least he got the main job done.
Yes, I think that it was probably expected, it would last more, and then he could fill on the gaps. So he built like an incomplete structure. Like, I gotta go. I gotta get this series going, and then it was like, oh shit, I don't have time to explain
it. There was just little things like, oh god, we're gonna go through this huge caper to get this incredibly valuable resource, and it turns out to be a herd of cattle from these multi-billionaires. A small herd of cattle that can fit on a small freighter, a very small freighter, is a major factor for these billionaires. And then it's like, okay, next episode, this is from Firefly. Next episode, we're going to finally sell them about 30 head of cattle to impoverished rustlers on a backwoods planet. And it's kind of like, no, this will never make sense.
No,
this will never make sense. It's fun while I was watching it, but as soon as I started thinking it through, it's like, no, that doesn't make sense at all.
No, it doesn't. Most things in that show, that at least in my opinion, don't add up. I watched it the first time. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. When they have on Netflix, etc. I tried to watch it again in order, etc. And I was like, I would have stopped. I should have not do a rewatch because all the pieces that don't fit.
Yeah.
You see them all, and there's a lot of pieces that don't fit. Anyway.
But I still love Joss Whedon's storytelling, so just not his world building.
You gotta get into it or not. That's the way he does things. May is I know you're busy with something that you can't announce, blah blah blah. For a publisher, you cannot say.
I can say the publisher. It's DC. So yeah,
unannounced
project.
I thought you mentioned the name, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't want to miss it. Okay. So, are you going back to May as soon as you're done with that? You're having it on a hiatus for a while. What's your
I'm on hiatus for a while on May. I hope to get back to it when I get a chance. This year is crazy because everything that I love is falling apart. So therefore, I want to do my little bit to try to hold it together.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, on a small level, if I was really worried when Diamond suspended shipments for a while for comics. So I'm still trying to do my best to help keep my local comic shops I can help. Still, survive all this. Going through my iPad Pro again. I recently just for free designed a T-shirt for one of my local Chicago area comic shops. Let me see. Oh no, that's not the final. Hold on, let me see. There it is. Oh no, that's not the final either. Dang it. Sorry. I designed a T-shirt for my camera. Oh, there it is. This is the final version. Here we go. I'm gonna change it so it's a little easier to read. But here.
Nice.
Yeah. And just for free, I drew that up for a comic shop. And it took longer than I thought, but I really love the Challengers Comics in Chicago.
Okay.
So, yeah, and just trying to do little things. Just a little bit of charity work for, Insider Art, which was to help female-owned comic shops and stuff like that. And just doing some free shows for free presentations and children's lessons for libraries. So a lot of the time I would spend on side projects or being sent on charity fundraiser projects right now. So
how do you think that what's happened with Diamond, and the closure, the way they did it, is going to affect the future? Because things need to change. It's been shown to us. And again, I will repeat it for the 30th time. Yeah. Nothing against Diamond. And if the shops love Diamond, so be it. Keep working with Diamond. But guys, shops, creators, etc., it's a monopoly. And look what happened because it's a monopoly. They closed and everybody's fucked. So things need to change. And do you think this is going to change, or we're going to go back to normal?
See, I'm naturally my natural inclination is to oppose a monopoly.
Mm-hmm.
But when I talk to comic shops, and when DC tried their plan for trying to get around Diamond to get comics out, most comic shops in the United States. Every comic shop I know of hated the plan because instead of going through Diamond, which distributes comics but doesn't sell comics directly, instead the DC plan went to two comic shops which do mail order in the United States and said, hey, every other comic shop, the people you're competing against, now you need to get their comics from them. Also, they're going to get the comics first and they're another comic shop. So it's taking two comic shops and saying, that compete with local comic shops, saying you guys get first dibs and you get extra profits from all the people you're competing against. Mm-hmm. So the competing plan did not work.
Yes.
And maybe someone can come up with a competing plan where comic shops would love it more. Maybe book distributors. I think we're also shifting more towards graphic novels, which can be done through the book market. Yeah. So there's, maybe an alternative is going to come up, but it's not going to be the one that DC came up with.
No, I wasn't meaning that one. That was in a big way. And I know the guys at Midtown, and I know they didn't mean,
no,
anything wrong, because they are good people. They just wanted to help. I cannot talk about the other distributor, and I'm sure they are also good people. But
they're fine, but again,
it wasn't a good plan because it was based on they are my competition, and I have to go through them. What comic shops forgot is that back in the day, the distributors were also comic shops that turned into a distributor. But
Oh yeah.
that's back in the day. But I mean that we need changes. We need more distributors. We need do you think it's going to be a change in formats that is going to help us go into the book distribution model, or self-distribution by many companies who are going to say, do I really need a middleman? Should I just go direct to customers, like in a Kickstarter model? What do you think?
Okay, so I think people have talked about this. The American model of big companies putting out huge amounts of floppy comics. 56, like the classic 52 DC titles back in 2011, is probably too many floppy titles every month. And especially when they're like, hey, we've got a successful Black Panther book. This is a classic example. Let's do 3 more Black Panther books.
Yes.
And each one of them will get 1/4 the sales of the original Black Panther series that is doing well. Doing too many titles, and especially floppy titles every month, is just too much. So I think that's going to shrink. Mm-hmm. And comic shops, I actually think, are eager to have less, to be flooded with less titles, especially from Marvel and DC every month. Comic shops that are also trying to transition towards graphic novel sales and stuff like that. I don't think that DC and Marvel are going to take over digital comics. I think that's essentially going to be that's more of a broadcast model that works for digital comics best. Mm-hmm. So like millions of people will read some like online manga or teen romance comic or something like that online. But it's not going to be so much sales of 100,000 paid copies of a Batman comic book or something like that every month. Yeah. It's just and I think America is actually leading the way as far as the future of graphic novels, as far as how our book market is handling comics. With creators like Raina Telgemeier in the United States, Gene Luen Yang, not Eugene. Like me, he is also a Gene, making books that are graphic novels that are evergreen sellers that keep selling forever instead of being past date, 2 months from now, things like that. And reaching out to kids in a really, really kid-friendly way, but with a big emotional punch. I think that model is probably going to spread a little bit to Europe, where you're already, say the French market. The French market is really great at making beautiful art pieces, but just a few. And usually another Asterix book or another Lieutenant Blueberry book, but not so hot on new ideas.
Absolutely.
And the American book graphic novel market is really good at accepting new ideas and getting them out to new readers, and especially young readers.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see that kind of expand everywhere. I mean, like the Japanese market also is having this problem where it's the old characters and the old titles, and they're afraid of new ideas, and they're afraid of new ways of getting books out. And animes are not anime. Manga is kind of dying, and they're not paying their creators. Mm-hmm. I mean, for most manga creators, I mean, they're barely making a living. And actually, frankly, most of them probably aren't at all. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to see that expand, just how the American book graphic novel market model just kind of expand around the world. And not necessarily American graphic novels, but the model of how we're getting the books out and actually giving a decent living.
I think that the Spanish graphic novel market is in Spain. I mean, it's really, 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 really strong. Not in a financial way. People doesn't make big money. But in terms of quality, creation, new characters, new ideas, new stories, the last 5 to 10 years, are really, and it's being exported. You see them more and more internationally. You see them published in America a lot. You see them published in the French market. So it's also I would say, I don't want our payment model to creators to be expanded, but the creativity, as we have it here, and the formats as we do it here, I would like to see them, catch on also in the US. As you say, that one thing influences the other. So both grow.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I mean, I'm always blown away by Spanish creativity whenever I get to hang out with Spanish creators. It's actually a little terrifying. Just like They're really good. Okay, here's something I'm curious about with this other book markets. In the American book graphic novel market, the creators usually make an okay amount of money or some money from sales of their comic book. But actually, a lot of it is because American teachers and librarians are starting to love graphic novels so much. They'll actually pay creators to come to schools or libraries to give talks.
Mm-hmm.
And that can actually be the majority of their income. And I'm curious if that's happening anywhere else in the world.
Not usually. When you go to libraries, etc., to bibliotecas, as we say here, you just go because you want to. And if you go to do a lecture, of course they pay you, and mostly because it's public spaces. So the state or the government, the local government, or the library through getting a payment from the government is going to pay you to do a lecture. But if you go to do a signing or something like that, it's always for free. There's no payment.
Oh yeah. Signings are free too, but they'll actually like a guy named Nathan Hale does a lot of American history comic books. He did one on Texas, so then all these Texas public schools paid for him to come down to Texas and just give presentations to kids on Texas history using comic books as a way to teach history.
It's the same thing. Here, if you go and do a lecture in a library, of course you get paid. They even paid me once to do one lecture, about the craft, how to learn the craft to become a comic artist, etc. So that's I think it's the same model. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just curious. Do Spanish creators make a decent amount of money that way, or different? Okay.
Not because it's not something that you do as a regular thing where you go. Maybe we could find an exception of a guy that does it regularly, but it's not. You just get called maybe once, twice a year, from a library to say, hey, as part of our courses in storytelling or something like that, do you want to come and give a lecture? So it's not a regular thing. In that sense, it's completely different. It's it's more an exception than a rule.
See. I don't know if that could ever work there, but I would love to know that was happening. Because it's just, I'm going to grab some examples from back here. Let's see. Let me find my Nathan Hale book.
Yep.
I cannot find it, but there's some really great books by a guy named Nathan Hale who does American history comic books. But then they also bring in like fiction creators like Mike Mayhack, who does Cleopatra in Space, which is now an animated series. And he'll just talk about his fictional version of far future sci-fi Egyptian Cleopatra flung into the future and becoming an action hero.
Mm-hmm.
And just getting kids excited about reading.
Yeah, I think that it should be pushed. It should grow here. It should become more important. There should be more lectures by comic creators in libraries because there's many of the books created that also deal with history. So it should happen. I completely agree with you. Let me go back to the guys. Enrique Robles says, I supported the Kickstarter for that t-shirt. I just heard yesterday that the second location got looted. I am a local to the Chicago area and I hope that I can support them.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for supporting challengers. They actually got, they got looted on, was it May? It's a little bit crazy right now. We're like, we're going through. I was born in 1969, but it's kind of like the 1968 experience, where just people are very justifiably angry about police abuses, but it's also a little bit of just young male testosterone destroying good, beautiful things. Libraries are being burned down. Black-owned businesses are being burned down. The anger is justifiable, but I wish it wasn't aimed at the things that are actually making the communities better.
Absolutely.
And many black-owned barbershops are getting burned down.
Yes.
What is the point?
Anger being aimed at culture places. Yeah. Libraries, comic shops. If you want to support the arts, that's you can get angry, but not, if you want people to be more cultured, to know more, to support you because they know the facts, don't go after the places where they can learn.
Yeah, and I don't want to take it like I'm the most resentful about like a comic shop being looted, though. It hurts me personally, but the thing that really gets me is also just, again, important Black-owned businesses in the Black community. This is going to hurt that community for decades when they lose simply a barbershop where people like to congregate and talk to each other.
Yeah.
That was crucial.
Absolutely.
That was beautiful.
Absolutely.
That was community center.
Felipe Gonzalez asks, when are you going to publish the third arc? Are you going to continue May in the future as an expanded universe, choosing writers? I say this because Mark Waid wrote one of the stories.
Up until I began doing mostly charity work and then my big unnamed project for DC, I was writing the third volume of May, and I really want to do. I have the big plot laid out, and then every time I think, okay, I've got it all figured out. I just need to dialogue it and do the visuals, because the visuals, like film editing, the visuals change the storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
But every time I think I got it nailed down, I come up with more ideas. Again, it's this constant flow. Every day you have creativity, and you use it. But the thing is also, the world is changing so fast. I have no idea what the world's going to look like by the time I have a chance to really focus down and do May. But it will be one of the top things on my plate. One of my top things I need to do until I get the chance to do it. I just have no idea what comic shops will look like a year from now, or what the comic book industry will look like. But the United States and the United States comic market, and I'm specifically separating those out. If they're in decent shape by the time we get out of this, yes, I will be doing May Volume 3. And I need to adapt. I mean, let's put it this way. If everything as I know it collapses, you'll be reading May Volume 3 as a webcomic. Because I'm going to get it out one way or another. But yes. I don't know what it's going to look like then.
And that's the next question. If you do it as, let's hope it doesn't happen, blah, 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 situation goes back to normal in a big way. Or the new normal, as our government says, they don't call it normal, they call it the new normal.
If it comes out as a webcomic, it is not going to be as highly rendered as far as the coloring. The coloring is going to look a lot different.
But I'm going to ask about the storytelling, because one of the most repeated conversations I'm having with people is, digital and print, and I keep saying the same argument, at least from my side, which is probably completely wrong, which is I hate that they say, that there's a plateau in terms of the digital comic sales that is not growing, and I keep thinking, probably wrong again, that's because they keep trying to do the same thing in a digital comic that they could do in a printed comic. They don't use the format to their benefit. They don't use the different screen, the scrolling. They don't think comics can be done in a completely different way when you do them digitally. And so when you do it, if you do May in digital, could you do it the same kind of storytelling you do it for print, or you could just refocus it, thinking, I have a new tool, have a new way of people is going to read in a different way. Like kids, they grow up with tablets now, so their brain works differently. They read in a different way.
There's a few things I would, at some point I'm going to probably do a webcomic project. Mm-hmm. And the way I would do it would be different, just for the economics of it and the weekly time schedule. The style would have to be simpler. The coloring would have to be a lot simpler. The drawing, so again, I'm going to break out my iPad Pro and show the samples of my stuff.
Loving it. Every time you bring the iPad Pro, they're just jumping on happiness. So don't stop.
If you look at this page here, I mean, the fact that I can do this is relatively fast for me.
Okay.
So the fact that I can do that, if I do a webcomic of May, it'll probably be that's a duotone, 2 colors, a brown and sepia? A black on top of a off-white.
You could go with sepia or not?
Probably, maybe. Well, the theme color of May is purple. So it'd probably be a more purplish color. But and the duotone could change from page to page. But it's very simple for me to do that and do a complete page that way. Unless, unlike on my DC project, it is the most elaborate layouts I've ever done. Just like it's not as much architecture, but everything else, like costume designs, scene designs, doing mathematical spirals and making a composition that works around the mathematical spiral. In that sense, yes, it's top 10 level, and it's really painful, but it's worth it. But as long as I'm not doing that crazy stuff like top 10 or the mathematical spiral, highly thematic DC project, yeah, I can draw pretty fast.
Mm-hmm. And as I was asking, you could do it, you lay it out or compose it, the storytell, in the same way you could do a printed page, or you could refocus on thinking another way and saying, this is another way of reading, got to do it another way.
There's a part of me that will always love print so much, and I think one of the things we've learned from the webcomic revolution and the graphic novel book market revolution in the United States is that kids actually really do love books.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the difference between seeing a movie on TV, which is like reading a comic on a phone, and watching a movie in a theater, where it's this big, focused, special event that smells different. And a book smells
absolutely
like something special. A good book. That physical thing makes it very special for children. And this is not me projecting my wishes onto them. This is librarians and teachers and bookstore owners telling me kids love holding the books. It tells them that something special is going on. So if I do a webcomic, it will be designed to someday work as a print object too. And I love the people who are doing things that don't work naturally in print. There's a American creator named Katie Cook doing a really wonderful line webtoon thing called Nothing Special.
Yes.
And it's okay. So I'm going to scroll you your page now. You don't have to see the storytelling, but just the fact that I'm scrolling it like this will show you how the page works. Oh, hold on. I need to get my finger to the side so I don't lock the scrolling. It's not designed to work as print. Look at how the word balloons are like leaking all over the place from panel to panel and stuff. It's stuck. Okay.
I think it's stuck. You enlarged it without wanting to, so
okay.
Have to.
It's
make it smaller.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. But yeah,
there you go. It was stuck.
Yeah, there are scenes that just do not work in print.
Yes.
Okay. And I love what she's doing, but that's not how I would want to work. Because I want to be able to give that special.
Because some traders tell me if I go digital, I would just break it in a way that I won't follow the print, this print storytelling. I want to do it in a different way, so it works really as a digital reading. But some others are saying no, because in my mind, I want them to read it as if it was in print. So I want to keep the model. That's why I was asking, what's your choice? What would be your choice, better said?
Well, what would be my what?
What would be your choice? If to break the mold and do it fully readable in a digital way, in a different way, or to keep the, even if I do it a webcomic, I want people to read it as a physical book.
My primary thing is I always want it to work as a physical book, but I'll say one of the creative choices I made in May is also I wanted to work as a digital comic really well. And the biggest problem, the thing that we love to do in American comics that works really badly in digital comics are double page spreads where we have the same big image.
We've gone through that. Yes.
Yeah. Suddenly having the screen change shape does not work in a digital comic. And just having it, the same size width of image is really important.
Yeah. I keep saying about the double spread, why don't, when it's put on a script, on a Marvel or DC comic, I'm like, why don't somebody tells the writer, the editor, the artist, I don't care, whoever's in charge, saying, you gotta make it read the right way as a double spread in a tablet, that there's movement or whatever you're gonna say, the action goes from the left to the right, so it's naturally, you can read it naturally as 2 pages in a vertical iPad. Because if you go horizontal, you can't see anything. You have to enlarge everything, so you lose the storytelling. Why don't you just do it that it goes, as 2 pages, left to right, and the action can be, digital and also physical, read into different ways.
Yeah.
Because if not, in digital, we lose the double spread every time, as you said. Yeah.
Yeah. This makes me think of the tragedy of the 1990s comics on CD-ROM with animation.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was not the future.
No. Fortunately, it didn't last. It didn't last. Let me see. A local to Chicago. I think we've read all the questions already, and there are like 3 or 4 people just raving about your art and raving about the iPad Pro and Procreate and how much they love it. We've been at this for like 93 minutes, my friend, already.
Okay.
So I think we are going to call it quits. Thank you so much. Oh, no, please, if you want to stay, we can stay. I don't want to keep you more because, again,
okay.
Let me thank him in public because this was just last night asking him to do this. Thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Please go now.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the last thing.
No.
Okay. Yeah. Today, I'm going to be watching my website. On my website, there's a contact form. So go to my website, geneha.com. Mention you watched this. You watched the show from David with David Macho and me. And if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer any questions you have that you send through my web form on my website. Just mention David Macho, and I'll put a little extra gas on it to make sure I get the question answered.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been amazing. I love talking to Gene. I could be talking to him for like the next 3 hours, but he has a life. And as I said, I asked him yesterday night to help me on this one, to be here. So I don't want to keep you any longer because you have a life, you have a family, you have a work to do, my friend.
And you've all been fooled for the last hour and a half because I'm really Michael Brian Bendis. Oh, it's stuck. It's a wig.
You get crazy every day. I miss you. I miss Lisa. I hope to see you guys very soon. I love you. Please don't cut because I want to say proper, goodbye to you after we cut the feed. And to all of you, thank you so much. Thank you for all your questions as usual. If you hate the iPad Pro, this hasn't been your show.
Yeah. Oh,
thank you, everybody.
Lisa sends her love to you, David.
What?
Lisa sends her love. Lisa sends her love.
Okay.
To you and the whole family, and also love to everybody out there inside of David Macho Land.
Yeah, David Macho. What?
David Macho Land.
Did you want them to kill me? No, stop. Okay, now with us. Let me remember because he's 5 female amazing artists.
Okay, I'm going to hang up now.
Yes, don't. It's Carolina Bensler, Sara Soler, Magda Price, Alba Cardona, and Sandra Molina. Lo digo en castellano porque Gina ha cortado, creo que no ha entendido lo de espera un segundo que me quiero despedir bien de ti. Mañana a las 5 estarán Sara Soler, Carolina Bensler, Magda Price, Sandra Molina y Alba Cardona. No os lo perdáis. Muchas gracias por estar ahí. Y como he dicho antes, a los que odiéis el iPad Pro, este no ha sido vuestro programa. Lo siento. Beso a todos. Chao. Corto en 3, 2, 1.